question is, a trained pharmacist is required to distribute medications. What are the requirements or certifications for a caregiver under the law?
Well, Trevor ought to explain that, and he makes a lot of assumptions when he talks about, yes, they're not medically trained, they're not experts in pharmacology, etc. We can't disagree with that. It's the caregiver has to follow the restrictions that are in the law regarding an age restriction, regarding residency, regarding prior criminal convictions. Otherwise, they're a caregiver and they grow it. It's a plant. All medicines, although they are refined and so forth, the vast majority of them start out as a plant. The same opioids that are used as our major painkillers, which have all kinds of bad side effects, come from the same plant that opium comes from. That's why opium and heroin come from the poppy plant. That's why they're called opioids. They all come from plants. Aspirin, one of the greatest discoveries in the world when it came about, comes from tree bark. Marijuana is another natural growing plant. It wasn't invented by man. It was put here by nature or God or whatever you want to believe, but it's natural. It's here. It's been found to have medical purposes. So they're going to grow it, and they're going to use it, and they want to talk about how much cancer is in marijuana and so forth. Marijuana is smoke. I'm here to tell you nobody smokes 20, 40, 60 marijuana joints a day. Even a recreational user doesn't do that. So the odds of getting cancer from it, or even small recreational use or medicinal use. Everybody I know who is a patient and uses marijuana with the permission of their doctor, even though it's not legal, because they've been advised by their doctor, go try it. It takes 2 or 3 puffs to solve the problem they're having, and they put the joint down until the need arises again, and that could be several days or a couple of times a day, depending on their illness and the kind of thing they have. But it's just, you know, they're not going to be sitting around smoking, whatever you say, they can grow 600, 800 plants a year, or cigarettes a year. They're not going to do it because they don't need it that way. They pass out first. They won't die, but they might pass out.
Trevor, do you?
I guess if they only need 2 or 3 puffs, why would we give them an ounce of marijuana? Why would we let them grow 6 plants? Why? If they only need a small amount, write the law that way, that they only need a small amount. That's all they need. I go back to, remember, this is the only so-called medicine where you get a year's supply and take as much as you want, but never have to see the doctor. No other medicine's like that. If you get a prescription for OxyContin, you get 30-day supply, 10-day supply, whatever the case may be. At least the doctor knows how much you're taking, how much he prescribed. Once you get your medical marijuana card, smoke as much as you want, and you never have to tell the doctor. How is that? How is he treating you, and how is he making you better? How are you becoming better if all you do is smoke and you never get to see the doctor for 1 year? At least with medicines, true medicines, you take a certain amount, you go back to the doctor, and he diagnoses you and says, it's not working for you. You need to go a different route. Or it is working for you. That's the doctor-patient relationship. This is a doctor-patient relationship that, in that article, lasts 8 minutes, and you're done for a whole year. That's not medicine. And then go back to, too, is as far as you can have great access to marijuana right now, anybody can get it. Well, if you remember that slide, in 2005, there were only 5 fatality accidents. So let's just go to the DUI. Remember? I wasn't talking about fatalities. If everybody was smoking marijuana, everybody could access to it, why were the DUI numbers in the 30 range? But after they passed the medical marijuana law, they shot up to 174. If they could, everybody could get it, and everybody could access to it, and there weren't any controls on it, that number of 5 back, or 19, I think it was in 2005, would be 174, because everybody can get access to it. So clearly, not everybody can get access to it.
There are, okay.
This is in Montana. I don't know what goes on in Montana, but they have a different law. It's more loose than this law will be. If we want to talk statistics, let's talk about, you know about the FBI Uniform Crime Report? You've heard of that? You're in law enforcement. 2009, the FBI Uniform Crime Report, state by state, according to them, information provided by the state of South Dakota. In the state of South Dakota, they had 2,868 drug abuse violations. That's for all drug abuse violations, which would include marijuana. They had 5,720 DUI arrests. I'm assuming the majority of those have to be alcohol because it's not legal to have marijuana. But speaking of which, it's illegal in this law. It's specifically, even though you're a patient, to drive under the influence of marijuana, which, as we said before, we really don't have an accurate measure of, but it's still in there to answer that concern, that it's illegal for the patient or the caregiver or anyone else, as it is now, to drive under the influence of. So I don't see that changing a whole lot. You can still charge them with it, and then they lose the right to have their medical marijuana card. If they violate any section of the statute, they lose their card. So if they want to risk losing the medication, then I guess they can do that.
Okay, we're starting to creep up on our time limit here, so I'm going to try to basically summarize several of the questions into two. One that was several comments had to do with children. One was, what about the children who are living in houses where they have to see somebody in constant pain? The flip side was, what about children and we're teaching them through the DARE program not to use drugs, and then we're turning around and saying this drug is okay to use. I understand those are coming from two different areas, but trying to summarize what's the message we're giving to our youth. The other one was, is there an age limit, or can any age, and it specifically is going youth to the questioner, is there a limit, or is it just up to the doctor, so a doctor could prescribe a pediatric cancer patient medical marijuana? Trevor, I'll give you.
Well, as far as the age range goes, if I remember right, if you're a minor, you have to have parental consent that the doctor give you a written certificate so the minor can get his medical marijuana card. So a minor can have a medical marijuana card, and he can or she can possess marijuana under the statute. So a minor will be able to possess marijuana if he or she has a card. So there's no limit, no age range, nothing like that.
Good. And did you want, coming from somebody who's active law enforcement, did you want to address the DARE program?
Well, I mean, it's flies in that. I go back to number 12 versus number 13. Number 12, we're telling people don't smoke cigarettes, but number 13 was it's okay to smoke marijuana cigarettes. Well, again, when you raise children, you want to be consistent. And we are seeing an inconsistent message to our children that, oh no, it's okay for this person to smoke marijuana. Well, Dad, he doesn't have cancer. I see him up and down the street all day. He's not really sick. Well, it's okay for him to smoke marijuana, but you can't. So it's an inconsistent message, and kids pick up on that. They say, well, that's not consistent at all. That's inconsistent. It makes no sense to me. And when the law doesn't make sense to them, they ignore it, and they do what they want. Just like if parents are in conflict at the house, they go, the kid's like, I can manipulate this situation. Guess what they're doing with this initiative? It's all about manipulating the system, because to get it for pain, I just have to make up a story and get the right doctor.
Slight difference there. With the permission of the parents, a doctor may prescribe for someone under the age of 18, but it also requires that two doctors agree, not just one. It requires that they get the recommendation from two doctors for a juvenile to get that. As far as the DARE program goes, it's had its ins and outs since its inception. There are many school districts throughout the country that are throwing it out of their school districts because it's being challenged as being not exactly straightforward and giving misinformation. And so what they've done to the cities, to the places that still have it, is in the city where, as a commander, I had a couple of DARE officers working in schools for me in one section of Denver. They present a program that talks about making good choices in life. It's not anti-anything. It talks about there are some problems with doing this and there are some problems with doing that. With some drugs, there's problems with smoking cigarettes. That's not a good idea. There's problems with getting into groups that will get you into gangs. They teach a lot of things about having bad habits and trying to teach kids to avoid that. As far as cigarettes are concerned, first of all, cigarettes are far more dangerous and cause more deaths than anything else in this country. So there's a reason why people need to think twice about cigarettes, and yet people still drink them, or still drink them. Yeah, I wish they could still smoke them and make that choice in spite of the apparent evils. Some people smoke all their lives and never get cancer. Some people get cancer in a few years. All depends on the person. But it causes the most deaths of anything in this country. And yet, we don't arrest somebody for possessing a pack of cigarettes. If somebody has a very small amount of marijuana that's specifically recommended or prescribed as medication, there's no reason why they can't have it. If they don't have a prescription, they're still outside the law, they're still subject to arrest.